Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our celebration of Hobbit Day. It is September 22nd, Bilbo and Frodo's birthday here in 2020, and we are celebrating today in the two ways which we have traditionally celebrated Hobbit Day at Signum. First, through some readings from some of our favorite stories, and secondly, through the beginning of our fundraising campaign. It's fall fundraising campaign time, and I have a lot to tell you about that as I look forward to some really, really fun stuff coming up. But first, I want to start off with readings tonight. Thank you guys all for joining me. So glad that you guys could all be here. Our first reader tonight, we are going to have the wonderful Kay Ben Abraham. She will join me here, and she is going to be reading a selection. So we have our three selections tonight. In the end, we're going to end up with Tolkien. Sparrow Alden is going to read us from The Hobbit. And in the middle, we are going to have Richard Rowland, who is going to read some Beowulf with us. So that'll be great fun. And we're going to begin with one of my favorite new fantasy novels, which is from Kay's wonderful book. So Kay, if you could join us, and we would love to hear from your book here.
Hello, everyone. Shall I attempt to share my webcam, or shall we go audio only?
Let us see how we do.
Oh, the green light is working.
Excellent. Very good.
Wonderful. All right. Well, as Corey mentioned, this is from my novel, The Flower of the Cedar, which I've been releasing as a podcast. So some of you in the audience may have already heard this little snippet, but I'm going to read just the beginning for a little taste and then hand over things to Richard.
Excellent. Thank you, Kay.
You're welcome. Epigraph. I shall enchant my heart, and I shall place it upon the top of the flower of the cedar. Now the cedar will be cut down, and my heart will fall to the ground, and thou shalt come to seek it, even though thou pass 7 years in seeking it. But when thou hast found it, put it into a vase of cold water, and in very truth I shall live. From the Tale of the Two Brothers. Author's note. When I found the story given me here, lost among the papers of a woman grown incommunicative with age, I had not looked for it, and in truth I cannot tell whence it came any more than its apparent caretaker could. The pages were handwritten in late Dryadic, and bound also by hand with both care and craft. For though the volume clearly bespoke great age, yet its back bore well the weight of its years. The tale is, of course, thoroughly Dryadic in nature and concerns, and from its admittedly scant treatment with the elves, I mark that it seems to come in days late into the 4th age of our world. For the elves, you will doubtless see, have already here suffered their fading, once the great ring was destroyed, and their lands and people gone into hiddenness. The written words of the god had begun to be preserved, taught, and spread among the Dryads, though that race had not yet reached its zenith, and subsequent infuriatingly mysterious, because unrecorded, withering. This would seem to place its telling somewhere antecedent to the beginning of our own written history. It seems to a composite text, compiled through the telling of events as only each of those figures within could have known it, and I cannot make out whether the hand that set it all down be of elf or dwarf, dryad or lamia, man or woman. I should say hands, for I noted at several points the lettering change, though I say this with some confidence as a textual scholar. The narrative voice undergoes no such stylistic interruptions. My own theory, though others may care to dispute it, is that the tale was originally of oral transmission and transcribed severally. For if it had been written concordant with its events, one would expect the language to be Old Dryadic rather than late. Perhaps some among the late Dryads knew or suspected somewhat of their approaching diminishment, and wished to preserve their lore, particularly the god tales. Such questions, of course, cannot be satisfactorily answered, and the pursuit of them must eventually end in speculation. A note on the translation: often woman or man or girl or the like stand in for their Dryadic counterparts, for to my knowledge we have none in our language any longer. And, for good or ill, I chose to clothe this tale anew in a language we may read, however impoverished, however dwindled. Yet, despite its various oddnesses, I found I loved it, and as with all loves, I would share it if I might. And so I drew it from among the manuscripts and the mouldering volumes of that strange and lonely house, and I bent over its lines for many nights, and I wrote to those few of my colleagues remaining who know somewhat of the Dryadic tongues, which once were as common as Latin or Greek to a young academic. Several gave helpful aid in the readying of its text for a readership born beyond the penumbra of Dryadic lore. I am especially grateful for the perhaps self-evident advice to describe them, which has been rendered imperative in our age, when our woodlands have lain silent for generations beyond reckoning, and we do not any longer remember the Dryads' amber eyes in the gloaming, nor the many hues of their skin. Perhaps this story will not find many friends in this world, but I knew, when first I saw it, that I would give it a voice nonetheless. You may make of it what you will. Chapter 1. The Hearts. She had 3 hearts. Why? She asked her mother when she was very young, and got such a heavy frown that she did not ask it again. There was a heart she had not met. She sensed its presence, but that pulsing came from far beyond the tumbled stone walls circumferencing their yard, and she was not allowed past these. Another heart she had held, a little warm thing with petals, but she was instructed to bury it. The exchange of a soft, bud-like heart for soil on her knuckles had been a hard one. She had cried until morning, quietly, into her pillow. And the third, they said, beat in her breast. She thought she could feel its faint rhythm when she laid her palm flat against her chest, but always faint enough to make her ask whether anticipation invented the tiny movement she felt. She lived with her parents in a small cottage far from other habitation, set like a cupped pearl amid green hills and trees tall and proud. Her father had cleared land at the end of their valley, and he tilled its dark earth and kept sheep for fleeces on the slopes of the rising hills round about. He left their home in the mornings and returned at night, and the little girl had never seen the husbanded fields, nor the flocks of her father. Neither did she meet the few lads from the distant village whom her father employed as shepherds during the sowing and harvest seasons when he could not leave his crops. She remained with her mother in the tiny cottage, and its garden spilling out behind, only catching distant glimpses of travelers on the curved road that dipped down from the northern cleft between the hills, looping with wide berth their cottage and garden, and passing away south to the village where it lay beyond the horizon. Often these travelers were only single silhouettes or a pair. Sometimes she saw family groups, with wagons making their slow way down the disappearing road to the village, and beyond to the far sea. When she reached her 9th winter, she wondered, for the first time, if the other children she occasionally saw also possessed 3 hearts, or rather, had possessed. Possession, she thought, with a throb, was past. She rubbed her palms on her overskirt as though wiping away remembered dirt. The thought was a new one. In later times she used it to mark that beginning of the heart-finding quest for her, because, as she only afterward realized, it was the first glimmer of an awareness and interest in some creature other than herself. No matter that the interest be fleeting and more than half curiosity, still, it meant the start of care, an early flower of love's blossoming. For the full summer was far yet. She understood about summer, the way summer came to the world about her. The bound vines on their garden poles would take in the rain, with the low-lying herbs her mother had laid out in the spokes of a fallen cartwheel, drinking in the sun. She liked to wander down the short, narrow paths worn by her mother's feet, and peer at the new growth during spring, marking the progression toward the full world summer. But her own heart, when she thought of it, in her own heart she never felt the gentle swellings of buds that her mother's morning glories put out. She thought it must be dry, like the cracked winter ground, if it indeed bore resemblance to anything. This thought had occurred to her when she was very small, and in the spring she watched her mother watering the garden. Her mother was bemused and angry when, some days later, she discovered her small daughter soaked and shivering beside the empty watering can. The little girl caught cold, but she complained not at all, sneezing and thinking with hope that her heart would grow with the garden. Her disappointment that summer came heavily. C'est fini.
Thanks, Kay. I mean, I know many of you attending will agree with me. It is such a treat, Kay, to hear you read. I know I've told you this before, but I am so grateful that you decided to release your book in podcast form. It is so perfect, and so to get my installment of not only a wonderful story, but a wonderful story just brought alive in such a beautiful way. I've said many things before, Kay, about what I love about your story. One thing I was just reflecting on as you were reading there, especially the prologue there, is the wonderful sense of both familiar and different that your story has, right? It's, there are things about it which, are very striking and very intriguing and that I don't really understand. I love the list, dryad or elf or lamia, I'm like, whoa, lamia, I was not expecting that one, and so when I first hear that, right, but yet throughout, it's, it also feels very familiar, and I feel it's, a mistake that too many, I think, modern writers make, to just like try to be different, like whatever else happens to be different, and the way in which you your story feels, even like the first time through, it's not exactly like I've read it before, but again, it has that sense of comfort, of familiarity to it, as well as being like really fresh and so many things that I was constantly readjusting and trying to just come to understand, in the first chapters. So anyway, another thing, an element that I was really struck by listening to it again there at the beginning.
Well, thank you so much. That's so kind. Oh.
Thank you. So tell people again where they can find it.
Yes, so The Flower of the Cedar is like on all podcast platforms at this point, but its official landing page is my whole name, so KaybenAvraham @gmail.com. And
Okay.
prizes to everyone who made it through that entire URL.
Yes. Yeah. Great. Very good. So at kaybenabraham.com, and that's where we can find the official landing page, and you can get it on podcast outlets, The Flower of the Cedar. Very good. Thank you, Kay, so much for sharing. Appreciate that. Okay, we're going to go backwards in time a little bit now, from something quite new to something less new, less recent, but no less fun for all that. Joined by Richard Rowland from down in Texas. Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening.
All right, and I will hand it over to you. Let's do some Old English.
So Corey requested something, to quote, toothsomely Germanic. So the most toothsome thing I could think of is the scene in which Grendel eats a bunch of people. So we're going to, I probably actually won't get quite that far. What I wanted to do is read the opening lines of the Grendel fight in Old English. I think it's one of the best passages in the Beowulf poem, certainly one of the most, to my ear, one of the most interesting. And then I'll read a short translation of those lines. And then I just want to talk about a couple of features of the Grendel of the Grendel fight in the Beowulf poem, which I think are interesting and which seem to have maybe escaped the notice of a lot of commentators. And this is the sort of thing you can get a lot more of in Signum's Germanic philology track. So I want to sort of shove everyone that's listening in that general direction. So, Dha kom of Mora under mis Leofum, Grendel gongan, godas bear, mynte se manskada, manna kunis sumna bisirwan in seladam chean. Wod under woknam, todas he winreched, gold selo humana, yerwost wisa, fatum fachne. Ne was that forma sith that he hrothgares ham gesocht. Nafre he on aldor dagum ne sidan hedran hala helthinas fand. Kom da dureceda rinch sidian dreamum bedalded. Duru sona onarn bandum fast. Bidan he hira formum afran. Onbrada bearo hydig. Dha he jabolgan was, wretched smoothan, retha efter thon, on fanna flor, feund tredoda eoda irmod. Him of eogum stod, liga jelkost, lecht unfair. Je seach he in recede, rincha mania swefan, sibe jedricht, samod at jadra, magorincha heap. Dha his mod ochlog, Mynta that he jedalde thon dag quom, atol aglacha anra jewilches, lif with lich. Dha him lumpen was, wist vilewen, ne was that weird dha yen, that he ma mosta man kynes, Thitian offer thy nicht. So, Then came from the moor under misty slopes, Grendel ganging, God's wrath bearing. He meant that mad scather of mankind, someone to ensnare in that high hall. He stepped under the sky until he saw that wine hall, that gold hall of men most clearly recognized, gold plated and shining. Nor was that the first time that he to Hrothgar's home had sought. Never had he in life days before or since harder luck of hall thanes found. Came then to the hall, the warrior traveling, from joys deprived. The door soon ran back with fire-forged bars fast when he it with hands touched. Threw open then the evil meeting one, he that was swollen with rage, the hall's mouth. Quickly after that, over the flagstone floor the fiend trode, went angry-hearted. From his eyes issued, most like to a flame, a light unlovely. Saw he in the hall warriors many, to sleeping a host of kinsmen all together, of young warriors, a troop. Then his spirit laughed, intended that he would take away before the day should come the terrible monster, each one of them, life with body, since to him it happened his fill of feasting hope. Nor was that fate still that he might be allowed of mankind to partake beyond that night. So this passage here, I think, is one of the best passages in Beowulf. In fact, it's one of the passages I use if I'm evaluating a new translation of Beowulf, or at least a translation that's new to me. Is how do they render this? How evocative is it? The translation I just read is not. It's not actually a very evocative translation. It's kind of woodenly literal, more just of a crib that I made for my own purposes. But what I wanted to point out here is the way that the poet builds suspense in the Beowulf poem, which is actually quite different from the way that you would maybe expect suspense to be built if you haven't read a lot of this kind of poetry, right? So you'll notice that there's no surprises in this fight. Of course, I'm assuming most people here know the story. There are surprises for Grendel, right? But there are no surprises for the audience. In fact, the poet is working within an established genre trope. More or less, it's basically monster goes to hall expecting dinner, monster meets hero instead and overcommits himself, and monster and hero engage in a wrestling match in which monster drags hero towards the door as he tries to get away. This is a trope. It comes up in more than one old Germanic story. So the poet knows his audience. And in fact, he has liberally foreshadowed how the fight is going to end. So instead of creating suspense and horror and delight by keeping us in ignorance about the outcome, he does it by forcing our perspective to shift through the various characters. So if I was going to read the whole Beowulf fight to you, which would go over the 15 minutes that Corey's given me, what we'd see is that the fight begins with the passage that I've just read to you, which is from lines 709 to 735, with Grendel's perspective. And then the next section from 735 to 748, it switches to Beowulf. And the first several perspective shifts are Grendel, Beowulf, Grendel, Beowulf, Grendel. And that's the very heart of the fight. And actually, that's the climax of the fight, but we don't actually see how the fight ends. We just hear what it sounds like. And that's the very middle of the fight and also kind of its climax. And then as we sort of progress out of this, what actually ends up being a chiastic structure to the Beowulf fight, we get the perspective of the Danes and then Beowulf and then the Yeats and then Grendel again. So we see actually Grendel's perspective interweaves and bookends and is in fact at the center of the fight. And so all of the suspense and the surprise, instead of it being our own surprise, we actually get it through Grendel's eyes. We get Grendel's perspective on his approach to the hall, and then the switch to Beowulf's perspective when Hancho, friend of Beowulf, is eaten by Grendel. And it's just back and forth, blow by blow like this all the way through the first half of the scene. And then we're taken out of the hall entirely for a very lengthy digression on what the Danes are hearing and thinking. I won't read all that, but just to kind of sum that up, there are basically, there are 9 different perspectives, and the first one, the middle one, and the end one are all Grendel's. So we get dramatic irony here. Everyone in this scene is a source of dramatic irony, right? Which is where the audience knows something, the characters don't, except for Beowulf himself. And that is, Grendel doesn't know he's going to die, but of course we do. The Danes don't know how the fight is going, of course we do. And furthermore, they are confident that nothing except fire can destroy their hall, which if you take one of Signum's Beowulf classes, you'll learn this is also a bit of dramatic irony because the audience knows that in a fire is precisely how Heorot is going to be destroyed, as the poem frequently foreshadows. And finally, the ants don't know that Grendel is iron-proof, but of course we do. Only Beowulf has no surprises here. We are told that he hopes Grendel won't get away, but we're never told he expects one thing to happen, while in fact something completely different is going to happen. So the effect is that we are put in a narratively superior standing to Grendel, to the Danes, even to the Yeats, but never to the poem's hero. The last feature I want to just point out in this wonderful passage, which I encourage you to go and read for yourself, is the music. Recall that at the beginning of the Beowulf poem, or near the beginning, it's the music, among other things, but primarily the music, the song, the Scop's song of the creation of the world from Heorot, which aroused Grendel's ire at the beginning of the poem. Now the Danes are the ones on the outside, and they too hear music. Sitting outside the hall, the Danes hear, says the mead hall quaked. To all of the Danes it was, to those encampment dwellers, to each of the bold, to the earls, a storm of bitter dregs. Both were angry, the raging house guards. The hall shook. That was a great wonder, that the wine hall withstood the battle, that to earth it did not fall, fair earth dwelling, but so firm it was, inside and out with iron bands, with such skill strengthened. There from the floor were ripped mead benches, many, so I've heard, with gold adorned, where the fierce ones fought. They never thought before, the wise shieldings, that by power of any man the splendid and antler-adorned hall might be broken, destroyed with cunning, unless the fires embraced with flames swallowed. And then it says, music arose, new and desperate. The North Danes started in abject horror, every one of them, those from the wall, wailing heard, singing a terrible song, God's adversary, the victoryless singing, bewailing sorrow, hell's prisoner. So we see this, Grendel's on the outside and he hears music, and now the Danes are on the outside of the hall and they hear music, but the music they hear is Grendel's suffering. And the poet extends the metaphor here. Grendel is doing the thing that you're supposed to do in a mead hall, which is making music. But Grendel's music is horrifying because it's really the screams of a monster who is quite literally getting his arm ripped off, which is why I like this poem so much as a child. Though I think some of the English here surely must be mental as well as physical. After all, Grendel has never lost a fight before this night, and he doesn't lose grinning or laughing or stoically or even singing, all of which are perfectly reasonable ways for a hero to die in a Germanic poem or say a Norse saga. Grendel loses screaming. That's all I've got, Corey.
And of course, as is traditional with things toothsomely Germanic, we end on a lovely, cheerful note. That was excellent. Thanks so much for that, Richard. I loved the laugh in the middle. That was totally the highlight. Very good.
It was not something I planned on doing. It just felt right at the time. So.
Absolutely, it was totally right. Awesome. Thank you so much, Richard. That was great. And yeah, a wonderful glimpse into how these wonderful stories come alive when you get to hear them in the original languages. Awesome. So finally, we have one last short reading from Sparrow, who is going to read us from The Hobbit to bring us into Tolkien as we come back on our Hobbit Day readings here.
Are we ready?
We're ready.
Okay. String or nothing, shrieked Gollum, which was not quite fair, working in two guesses at once. Both wrong, cried Bilbo, very much relieved, and he jumped at once to his feet, put his back to the nearest wall, and held out his little sword. But funnily enough, he need not have been alarmed. For one thing Gollum had learned long, long ago was never, never to cheat at the riddle game, which is a sacred one and of immense antiquity. Also, there was the sword. He simply sat and whispered. What about the present? Asked Bilbo. Not that he cared very much, still he felt that he had won it pretty fairly, and in very difficult circumstances too. Must we give it the thing, precious? Yes, we must fetch it, precious, and give it the present we promised. So Gollum paddled back to his boat, and Bilbo thought he had heard the last of him, but he had not. The hobbit was just thinking of going back up the passage, having had quite enough of Gollum and the dark water's edge, when he heard him wailing and squeaking away in the gloom. He was on his island, of which, of course, Bilbo knew nothing, scrabbling here and there, searching and seeking in vain, and turning out his pockets. Where is it? Where is it? Bilbo heard him squeaking. Lost! Lost, my precious, lost! Lost! Bless us and splash us, we haven't the present we promised, and we haven't even got it for ourselves. Bilbo turned round and waited, wondering what it could be that the creature was making such a fuss about. This proved very fortunate afterwards, for Gollum came back and made a tremendous spluttering and whispering and croaking, and in the end Bilbo gathered that Gollum had had a ring. A wonderful, beautiful ring. A ring that he had been given for a birthday present ages and ages before, in the old days when such rings were less uncommon. Sometimes he had it in his pocket. Usually he kept it in a little hole in the rock on his island. Sometimes he wore it when he was very, very hungry and tired of fish, and crept along dark passages looking for stray goblins. Then he might venture even into places where the torches were lit and made his eyes blink and smart. But he would be safe, oh yes, very nearly safe, for if you slipped that ring on your finger, you were invisible. Only in the sunlight could you be seen, and then only by your shadow. And that was a faint and shaky sort of shadow. I don't know how many times Gollum begged Bilbo's pardon. He kept on saying, "We are sorry. We didn't mean to cheat. We meant to give our only present if it won the competition." He even offered to catch Bilbo some nice juicy fish to eat as a consolation. And thank you, Corey.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. So, of course, for those of you who are confused, that was from the 1937 Hobbit. That is the original end of the riddle game. That is how Gollum and Bilbo first resolved things. Notice how it immediately goes to as soon as the place where the shock really begins, right, is the line, "But he need not have worried." And you're like, wait, what? Really? Okay. Right, because obviously Gollum wouldn't cheat. I mean, please, like, it's not even on the table that Gollum would cheat.
Not at the riddle game.
No.
Not at the riddle game.
Clearly not.
Poker maybe. Poker maybe.
That's right, but not at the riddle game. Awesome. Thank you for that, Sparrow.
You are so welcome, and I'm excited to see all the people here for Hobbit Day. Hello, all the people.
Absolutely. So, Sparrow, we're gonna. I'd like to talk more, but I know that you need to run soon. So, but I know Sparrow is hosting for us this year. We're doing a special thing this year during the fall fundraising campaign. Sparrow is hosting a fiction writing contest that we are running between now and the end of the campaign. I'll show you where you can find the full directions for that for everybody. But Sparrow, you want to say like a couple real quick words about it?
The goal is to create a curated collection of great speculative fiction stories, everything from under 18s to poetry to horror to wonder with a little bit of delight thrown in. And what I want to do is have people send me their PDF entries by September 3rd, the end of September 30th, and I've already made a spreadsheet. And so on October 1st over coffee, I will invite a very distinguished panel of judges to read in their specialty, and then we're going to all nominate the best in the category, in the 5 categories, and then everyone look at the nominees and put together what we think will be wonderful. And on the 17th, the date of Signum Palooza.
That's right.
Webathon. Real people call it the Webathon. Yeah. Then we will announce our winners. And I very, very much hope that people will spread the news to all your under 18 friends, because my fellow writers who are like 7 write amazing stories, and I want to see them and give them something fun to do, something to respond to, so they can get like a cheerful email back from a writing coach who says, "Wow, I loved your story. The part with the peanut butter met the jelly was great." So
Awesome.
That is the plan. Send stuff, and judges will put together a very nice collection.
Excellent. That is going to be so much fun. We've had creative writing contests before, but it's been years since we've been able to do that. So glad to bring that back.
It's been a little while.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
And I would love to remind folks that who know about the Twitch channel that we have something called Writer Space Saturday mornings and Sunday evenings, and it's just come on in, and I will give you, this is the permission fairy wand, I will give you permission to not do chores for an hour and a half and work, right, I've got it right here, and work on your own creative stuff. So
Awesome.
I hope that people will join us. Yay.
Very good. Excellent.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Corey. Have a wonderful season and a great Hobbit Day.
Thank you. Thanks, Barrow.
Bye-bye.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna resize my window here. Okay. So I have a short reading. Really, seriously, it's short because you know me. So I'm gonna, actually, it's a fairly long passage I'm gonna be reading. It's like 3 sentences. So we'll do that. This reading has been on my mind a lot lately as I've been thinking. A lot has been happening at Signum University over this last year and over these last 6 months. It's been a huge time of growth for Signum. And throughout that, this moment in The Lord of the Rings has been just continually recurring in my mind. And so I wanted to share it with you and sort of why I've been thinking about that. Let me introduce to you the theme of the fundraising campaign this year, however, first, and then I'll read my passage. Oh. Hang on a second, I knew I'd messed that up. Let me start again, this time sharing my screen. Okay, and now, again. There we are. Answering the call is our theme this year. Let me read for you the passage that I've been thinking about so much. And it is at the end of the Fellowship of the Ring. Or sorry, not the end of the Fellowship of the Ring, the end of the Council of Elrond in the Fellowship of the Ring. Right after Frodo says, "I will take the ring, though I do not know the way." Elrond raised his eyes and looked at him, and Frodo felt his heart pierced by the sudden keenness of the glance. "If I understand aright all that I have heard," he said, "I think that this task is appointed for you, Frodo, and that if you do not find a way, no one will. This is the hour of the Shire folk, when they arise from their quiet fields to shake the towers and councils of the great. Who of all the wise would have foreseen it? Or if they are wise, why should they expect to know it until the hour is struck?" Actually, I rounded up to the whole paragraph. That's my passage. So this is the thing that's been on my mind again and again as I have been watching the events of the last, the last 6 months unfold around me. This is the hour of the Shire folk, when they arise from their quiet fields to shake the towers and councils of the great. And the kind of relevance of that, it's been has had a very personal relevance to me, because as I've been looking around, higher education is in a lot of trouble. I mean, the higher education world is in real crisis right now. I'm not sure. There are a lot of schools that are not going to survive this year. Things are bad, and a lot of people are really not sure what to do and how to move forward. Students aren't sure what's going to happen and what's going to be happening. Schools are not sure what's happening and what's going to be happening. The thing is, higher education, of course, has been in crisis for a while. And this is a crisis that I've been sort of watching coming. It's long been clear that the current model of higher education was not sustainable. And there's just no way you can charge as much as is currently being charged for tuition indefinitely. It can't keep going indefinitely. It's going to reach a breaking point. The pressure behind the dam is going to come to a point where cracks are going to form. Cracks were already forming, and where it was eventually going to break. That's been pretty clear to see for a while. Of course, the events of the last 6 months, in particular with the COVID pandemic, and all of the change that has brought and the ways that people have had to adjust to that, and the damage that has done in terms of the revenues, of the incomes for schools, has driven what was a serious situation already into a real crisis, and has accelerated that really quickly. And as I've been watching this happening, been thinking about Elrond. This is the hour of the Shire folk, when they arise from their quiet fields to shake the towers and councils of the great. Because as I've been looking around and watching all this happening, it's been very striking. As I've been thinking about the crisis, the coming crisis in higher education, and I've been anticipating the crisis in higher education, as I say, for some time, I have always felt, that Signum has been in large part designed to be different from higher education for that reason, because I knew everybody could see that this was coming. And we had the opportunity, building Signum as we've done, independently and from scratch. We're not attached to the old models. We're not working within the system that has led to the problems that higher education is currently facing. And so we've tried to take advantage of every opportunity that we've had to rethink them, to go outside them, and to do things differently. And now, as we've been looking around, and it's been something that I increasingly can't ignore. Here we are in the middle of this crisis, and we're finding that what everyone is trying to do is exactly what we've been doing, from remote learning to distributed operations and so many other things. Exactly what the world that higher education has been desperately attempting with very mixed success to adapt itself to over the last 6 and especially the last 3 months, is exactly what we already are and what we've been doing for 10 years. And I've been feeling, at first it was almost, I mean, okay, I'm not gonna lie, there was a certain satisfaction to it at the beginning, right? It was almost not, it wasn't funny. It wasn't funny to watch everybody else struggling, but my experience in running Signum for 9 years, it's not going to surprise you that I have felt at many points like there have been a lot of people who have kind of looked down on us, right? We're this tiny little funky little online institution, and a lot of people haven't really taken us very seriously. And so to watch all of these brick and mortar institutions who would never give us the time of day suddenly try to model themselves after us, essentially try to desperately figure out in a really narrow period of time what we've been doing and what we've been developing, carefully and deliberately over many years. It's just like surreal to sort of see that happen. Like all of a sudden now the entire education world was trying to operate like Signum has been operating, and to do exactly what we do. And at first, again, it was kind of like, well, isn't that ironic? Isn't that kind of funny? But as time has gone on, and I've seen, more and more of the distress, and I've seen more and more of the, the difficulties that people are having trying to accomplish this and everything, I've been feeling more and more strongly this sense, I don't know, kind of like how Frodo feels in the silence before he volunteers to take the ring is kind of how I've been feeling. That is, people are going, I've been reading articles, people saying like, we're trying to figure out like how to do remote. Why is it that remote learning is so bad? Like nobody likes remote learning. What are we doing wrong? And I'm like, I could tell you what you're doing wrong. And I've even read articles which say, here's what really good remote learning would look like, but it's too bad we don't have the resources to do it. And I'm like, no, actually, what you're describing is exactly what we do with way fewer resources than you have. So no, it really can be done. Anyway, it's just, we're small. We are new. We are tiny. And yet this year has demonstrated that the model that we have built at Signum is definitely something that the world can benefit from. People need to know about this. People need to hear about this. And it's been, answering the call is the theme for this fundraiser, because it's how I've come almost to feel about it. Like there is some need. Again, like, Frodo right before he volunteers is kind of looking around, sort of feeling like there's an expectation on him, and he's, and he's realizing, no, he doesn't have to do it, right? He doesn't have to step forward and do it. But he knows that he should step forward and do it, even though he's small and does not feel adequate to the task, right? In this moment, at Signum University, we are basically stepping forward and saying we will take the ring. I think that what it has been shown that what we do and what we do well. I've said, well, I won't say flippantly, but I've said fairly lightly in years past that Signum's educational model, Signum's institutional model, is a model for 21st century higher education. It's the new model university, and what a really digitally native university can look like, that is really committed to teaching, that does remote learning really well, that operates really well in a distributed way, and has worked through over over many years now of lots of learning and lots of trial and error, has refined a new system that, although again, we are right now a small model of that, we're nevertheless a scale model that will work, and that I feel very confident will work, and that I think a lot of people would benefit from seeing and from understanding that there is hope, basically. Again, where the eagle, the eucatastrophic eagle has always been our symbol, and never has that felt more apt. We don't have the power to rescue higher education, but we can kind of put our hands up and say, no, you know what? There are options. This situation is a huge mess, and for many schools, for some students, it looks like there's no way out of it, right? There are lots of problems and lots of challenges that are just piling up, and some of them look insurmountable, but we can testify and say, no, actually, it can be done. It can be done, and it can be done really, really well. And we've seen how to do it, and we can show you how this works, and even helping other schools, not only providing an alternative for students, but even helping other schools to see how this kind of a model really could be embraced. So over the course of this campaign, I'm going to be talking, I'm going to be working my way through, I've said lots of challenges and problems have sort of piled up. I'm going to be working through 10 different major issues in higher education, 10 things which really sort of hold higher education back, either challenges that they need to overcome, problems that have arisen, some sort of specific to our interests, some very general in higher education, and the ways in which Signum has already, we've been wrestling with these problems for years, and we have solutions. And I'm not saying they're the only solutions. I'm not saying that our way is the only possible way forward, but I am saying that it is a legitimate way forward. We have answers to every single one of these 10 challenges, some of which the vast majority of the rest of higher education, with all of its traditions and all of its resources and with all of its excellent people, it does not have, institutionally speaking, it does not have answers to these questions. Some of these questions they don't even really seem to be asking, and I think they should be. So I'm gonna work my way through these 10 problems, and then when we come towards the end of the campaign, I'm gonna do a couple sessions, one at the webathon and one a couple days before, where I'm gonna go through Signum's in more detail, Signum's solution to these problems, and kind of lay out our model in order to sort of begin the process of really showing this to the world, because this is something that I feel like we have to do. I don't know what's going to come of it. I don't know how many people are going to pay any attention to us, but I can't sort of remain silent about this anymore and just keep doing our little thing in our little corner. We have to kind of step out of the corner there and step forward and say, this is something that we can help with. This is something that we can do. We have a plan. And we want people to know about that. We want students to know that there's an alternative out there, that it is possible. And again, we want schools to know that there are models that you can adopt, and we're even happy to help folks in their discovery of those models and helping to figure out how they can adapt to the new world that has come upon us. The new world isn't going to go, the old world is never coming back. Things are never again going to be like they were 6 months ago, for good or ill. The higher education that you have known is gone, to paraphrase Gandalf in Minas Tirith. That is true of so many things, and it is certainly true here. So that's the theme. That's the sort of the moment here at Signum. And that's only the beginning, because of course it also happens to be a really big moment in other ways as well. And I would like to I would like to share something with you. I have an announcement and something I have been looking forward to showing you guys for a really long time. In one way, it's not going to be, you know, it's a less scintillating present perhaps than it, but I think you'll appreciate how exciting this is. Hang on. Are you ready? Ta-da! This is our accreditation document. Signum has officially begun the process of evaluation for accreditation. I have to say, of course, that we don't have we have no guarantee how, that we're just beginning this process, right? It's going to take a little bit of time. I cannot tell you exactly how long it's going to take, nor can I promise we're going to be successful. I feel very confident. Of course, I believe in Signum, and I believe that things are going to go well, but there's lots of stuff happening. So I have to make sure that nobody thinks I'm, don't think I'm saying, hey, congratulate us, we're accredited. We're not, but it's happening. It's real. Those of you who have been following Signum know we've been building towards this for years, but it's done. Check it out. Ready? Oh, look at that. There it is. Right. Here is our document. This is what I've been doing with myself. For those of you, you may remember back in July, I took a couple weeks off, and I've been really busy and sort of pushing things back. This is our document right here. This is Signum University well, it's rather large for a nutshell, I have to admit, but there it is. I can only hold it for so long, or I'm going to do myself an injury. But hang on. Oh, okay, there we are. Yeah, whew, I gotta hurt my arm just holding it. So this is the beginning in so many ways, right? It's the beginning of the accreditation process. It is the beginning of the accreditation evaluation process. So again, we're not done, right? And of course, even the entire accreditation process, even when and if we are granted accreditation a little bit down the road, even that, of course, is only the beginning of our growth as an institution. But as those of you know who have been our supporters for a long time, it's been a long time coming here, and it is, you don't even want to know like all of what it takes to basically get from scratch from, many of you I know, many of you I see on the list here, were with me in the very first class session we ever held back in 2011, for Signum's program. And from that first class that I broadcast from my walk-in closet down in Delaware, through to this moment, there's a massive number of things that need to go on. So yeah, Cecilia, it's a 650-page binder, is what I was holding up there. So yeah, it's amazing. So yeah, it's and just what a huge testimony to the work of so many people who have gone into this. When we're finally when we finally come to the celebration, when, as I trust, though do not guarantee, we will reach of achieving accreditation, I kind of feel like we're going to have a ceremony where, like, one person takes the certificate and hands it to another person who bears it over to, like Aragorn getting his crown at the end, with Signum, it's going to be kind of like that. So many people have contributed along the way. So many people have been working, not only, of course, over the last, year as we've been putting together everything that has led to that document, to the, all the work that's been happening here, in the last months, finalizing it. But we're ready. right? We are ready. We have it is really happening. It has our first submission has happened. We are waiting any day for the next stage to begin, and you know, it's the process is underway. And again, so that's the other thing that's been happening behind the scenes, you know, kind of tying back together with what I was saying about this other stuff. Like, this is right at the time when we are, you know, it's been one of the other things which has really kind of held us back. One of the reasons why we haven't talked more, like, in public, like why I haven't been, like, you know, talking to journalists and news stories and stuff, saying like, hey, yeah, student debt, we've got a solution for student debt right over here. That's kind of a story, right? But we haven't made so much of a story about Signum because we weren't ready yet, right? We weren't ready for scrutiny, because, and this was one of the main reasons why we've been working towards, it's been our goal for so long to be accredited, you know, to have our accreditation underway like this. And now, you know, at the same time that we have come to the end of that long preparation journey, is the time when all of this stuff is happening in the culture around us, and, you know, it's time for us to step forward. You know, and so I, you know, have very much been feeling that this is I don't know, you know, this is the moment. So that's the really exciting thing. Now, on fundraising campaign specific items, you guys will remember, many of you will remember, back in April of 2018, when we first applied for approval from the state of New Hampshire, which is the first step, right? So the first step of our credentialing, our official credentialing process, was that process, which was completed, right? That was announced, you may remember, in February of 2019. We officially completed that process and were approved by the Higher Education Commission of the state of New Hampshire. And at that time, of course, we have to go through the evaluation process, which is very expensive. And we did a special fundraising campaign for our credentialing fund back then in April 2018. And you guys responded so generously. It was almost overwhelming, the generosity with which we were met at that time. And we were able, we raised money, and we raised enough money in less than 2 weeks to do our entire New Hampshire review. And we still had money left over, which we've been saving in the bank for this moment, for the accreditation review, when it was time for that. The accreditation review is more expensive than the New Hampshire review was. The total cost well, there are a lot of costs that we don't know exactly yet. There's kind of a range of what it could be, but we need to be prepared to spend anywhere from $25,000 to $30,000 for the accreditation review. Fortunately, because of your wonderful generosity from before, we still have $19,000 in the bank from there, just a little bit shy of $19,000, $18,900 and something. So we have a huge chunk of that already there, which is great because we've already paid our first fee. So exciting. We've written our first check for the evaluation process. And of course, we already had that in the bank, and we already have the next stage, you know, the fee for the next stage in the bank too. But we do need a little bit more. We are going to still be about $10,000 short by my estimate of what we're going to need for the credentialing fund. So here's what we're going to do this year. So it's the fall fundraising campaign. And of course, as you know, we have our annual fund that we need to support in order just to keep the lights on at Signum and to keep everything moving forward, to keeping all of our broadcasts working, to keep all of you know, Signum's operations running. We need to raise our annual fund. And of course, we need about, as I say, about $10,000 on the credentialing fund. So I'm combining those this year. So our overall target for our fundraising for this year is going to be $75,000. If we can raise $75,000 during this fiscal year, I mean, between now and the end of next July, but of course, the fall fundraising campaign is when we are, you know, sort of primarily focusing on this, because I don't like, you know, having my hand out to you guys like every single time I see you year round, right? So I try to concentrate that here into the fall fundraising campaign. But if we can raise $75,000 this year, that will cover our expenses at Signum, you know, cover our basic expenses, and it will enable us to do the accreditation review for this year. And here's the really cool news. We need $75,000, and that's a lot, but you guys are so generous. Last year, you may remember last year I was emphasizing one of the things that's super, super helpful for us are the people who make monthly donations. And we had a lot of people respond and start monthly donations. Some large monthly donations, some of them really small, many people giving $5, $10 a month towards Signum. All in all, we have over 130 people who make monthly donations to Signum, who have been making monthly donations to Signum over the course of this past year. And those monthly donations that we've been getting, you know, sort of projecting those forward, just only the continuation of the monthlies that were started last year, we plus a few gifts that were already given today and yesterday, we already have raised $48,000 towards the target. So we need $75,000, but we're already almost at 50, right? We're already at 48,000. So we only need $27,000 more in order for us to hit our target, to be able to complete the accreditation process, to have enough money to complete the accreditation process, and to be able to meet our basic expenses at Signum. So that is really exciting. That's not so bad. $27,000, that is a very manageable amount. So for those of you who are able to donate, I really appreciate it. If you want to make a one-time donation, that now in the fall fundraising season is the perfect time to do that. If you want to start a monthly donation, you absolutely can do that. And of course that will count towards, you know, that will, you know, come in through between now and July. So that will all count towards this. And we will credit you for your generosity for the whole year. And again, even just a few dollars a month is really helpful. And, you know, so glad for the people, so thankful for the people who have been partnering with us for so long. You know, now is the time when, and this is again, I know, you know, I am very aware of what a challenging time this is everywhere. There are so many things happening, you know, whether it's COVID or the wildfires or all kinds of things happening all over the place. I know it's a really difficult time for many people. So of course, obviously, we understand if you're not in a place where you can give right now. But because of the need out there, because of how difficult times are right now, this is what we're really focused on, is what Signum can do, how Signum can not only be moving forward ourselves to achieve our next and our more ambitious goals, to be extending our model and helping more and more students, and, you know, beginning to do new things. You've heard me talk before. I talked at the State of the University address last year about our Signum Path program, our professional development program, which we've launched and begun and has been beginning very well. And of course, you may even have heard me allude on previous occasions to the new undergraduate program that we're planning to launch, and which, you know, the preparation of which is already underway. These things are, you know, these things are going to fill real needs. They're going to make a big impact for people, especially people who are really struggling. You know, higher education, traditional higher education, normal tuition bills are things which have been outside the reasonable reach of a lot of people for a long time. And that's only getting harder now. But again, we at Signum have something to offer. We have something that we can give, something we can do to help. And not only that, it's not just the individual students that we can help. We can also help the schools themselves. We can help the universities. There's a new program that we're launching called Signum Online Program Services, where we're going to be offering ourselves as advisors and consultants to help schools adapt and adjust, to learn from to help to teach them some elements of our model, and to help them see how they can make some changes in order to adapt to the new world that's around us now. There's so many things that we're excited to do. So again, I realize, and you know, needless to say, no judgments on anybody who's not able now to be able to give. But if you can, there will never be in this year, man. It is the biggest impact year we have ever had. This is the year of transition. This is the time when we are happening. I've been kind of pointing towards it the last two fundraising campaigns. I've been talking about, you know, waiting on the doorstep, and I've been talking about, you know, setting off down the road and stuff. It's all been kind of looking towards the future. This is what we've been anticipating. And of course, with all of the local circumstances, right, with all the crises that have come, it has come more emphatically in a much more timely manner than we could ever have anticipated. Though again, you know, we've been anticipating it, and yet it's now a much bigger deal than I ever imagined it would be when we were planning it before. Let me do two last things, and then I'll let you guys go. First, I want to give away presents, because it's a Hobbit birthday, and what's a Hobbit birthday without presents? So I want to give away some presents to folks. So here's what we're going to do. Most of you have probably seen by now our new Signum store, the new Signum merchandise. So if you go, let me show you where to find stuff here. So if you go to the Signum homepage and then go to the support menu over here, this of course is our new Signum store, which is great, where you can see all of our new really fun Signum merchandise. But you can also find here on our annual fund page, the annual fund page is where you can get all this information about our programs. This is where you can find the information about the fall fiction contest that Sparrow is hosting, that we were just talking about before. So you can watch her little intro video and get some more details there. You can get the registration links and stuff for the other events that are the special events that are going to be happening during the campaign. And then further down, our thank you gifts to our donors. Let me come back to that for just a second, because I want to give away presents first. So presents. Here's how we're going to give away some of our new Signum merchandise for presents. So I'm gonna roll my dice, and I'm gonna come up with a few names from the attendee list here, and I'm going to give away presents. And here's what you can get. You can choose whatever design you like from the Signum store, and you can choose one of several different designs. Let me see. We've got stickers, magnets, greeting cards, posters, coffee mug, bags and pouches, coasters, notebooks, or face masks. Any of these things you can choose among. So I'm going to be rolling for people who are attending both on Twitch and in GoToWebinar here. So I'm gonna give away 3 presents tonight. Okay, number 1. All right, we have now. Unfortunately, what I really wish is that these were numbered, so I don't have to count by hand. But hang on. Okay, right. Our first winner is Noam Weiss. You are our first winner. Awesome. Thank you, Noam. Thank you for your support over the years. I know you've been with us for a long time, Noam, and always great to have you around. Thanks for joining us. So what to do if you you should definitely look around to choose which designs you want. Send an email to info@signumu.org, and then you can talk with Sharon. We'll respond to you there to arrange exactly what you get and make sure it gets to you and everything. So send an email to info@signumu.org. Tell Sharon that you won. Tell her which design you want and on what thing, and she can help you if you need to see again the list of objects that you can choose among there. So yeah. Oh, it's right. Awesome. See, Sharon's way more organized than I am. She has a form that she will send you, so you can just fill it straight out. So it's much simpler. So email info@signumu.org and she'll send you a form. Okay, so that was number 1. And now number 2. Okay. All right. By the way, I'm rolling my dice in my son's, for my birthday, gave me a dice tower this year, so much more convenient to. That is the sound you hear when I'm rolling my dice here to determine the winner. Okay, let's see. Okay. Let's see. Okay, all right, and this one is a Twitch attendee. Twitch attendee is Sheriff of London. Sheriff of London on Twitch. You are our second birthday prize winner. Birthday present recipient. Excellent. So again, send an email to info@signumu.org, and then one more. One more. Okay, this is a GoToWebinar person. Okay. And this goes to Tracy Horton. Tracy Horton is our third winner. Very good. Very good, Tracy Horton. So again, send an email to info@signumu.org and we will get your we'll send you a form and then we'll get your presents to you. So this just to thank you for attending. One last thing, and then I will let you go. Okay, here we go. Okay, so my last thing here is our donor appreciation program. So for those of you who are new to this, for many of you this will be very familiar, but we like to give presents. We like to show our appreciation. I have always been so thankful and so grateful to everybody who gives so generously to help make Signum possible. You know, we are a nonprofit which would never have existed had it not been for the generosity and support of all of you guys who make this possible. So we have our donor appreciation program where we like to give presents to people who give to us, and there are some new gifts that we have in here. So let me just do a quick review for those of you who aren't familiar with it. For everyone who gives up to $100, now that's total over the course of the year. So if you give like a $50 gift one time, you qualify for this. If you give like $5 a month, start a monthly donation of $5, you qualify for this too, because that counts as a $60 donation over the course of the year. So if you donate up to $99, you get voting rights in the Mythgard Academy. So Mythgard Academy is the series I do on Wednesday nights where I go through books chapter by chapter, or sometimes slightly more than that in the case of our current book. This is democratically elected. Whatever book you guys want me to teach through and discuss with you guys. And the Mythgard Academy program has been a really fun and exciting program for the last 7 years now. We've been running it. So everybody who gives a gift of any size gets to vote in the elections for what books we do. So it's a fun time to get a chance to choose the topics of our broadcasts. For everybody who donates $100 or more, that's so like $10 a month will get you into this category. You are members of the Council of the Wise, who not only get to vote on what books we discuss in the Mythgard Academy, but get to nominate books for the Mythgard Academy and to choose the finalists that then everybody gets to vote on. So that's what happens if you are able to donate $100 or more. These are all cumulative, of course, so if you donate more, you get everything from the earlier tiers as well. For gifts of $150 or more, so that's if you donate about $12 a month, you also get some of our Signum annual memorabilia. So you can choose a mug or a bag of whichever one of your choice, featuring our exclusive annual campaign graphic. The graphics you've been seeing here are answering the call graphics. That's our graphics for this year. I have my own mug collection, which I love. So you get your memorabilia at $150. For those who donate $200 and up, this is a new thing we started last year that I'm excited to continue. As we continue to move forward. Membership in the Signum Fellowship. So the Signum Fellowship is a special group. We get together, do special live broadcasts with the fellowship. I do regular monthly meetings to keep everybody up to date on what's going on. You guys, the people who are donating, you're donating $200 or more. That makes you part of our core supporting team. And I like to keep you guys up to date, to be able to answer your questions. Do you have questions about Signum stuff or how things work? Do you want to talk about something else? Whatever. So I do special monthly broadcasts for our Signum Fellowship folks. I've been really enjoying those. If you donate $250 or more, you get access to to the lecture archives, to one of our courses from the Signum catalog. You go pick any course that we've ever offered at Signum, any of them that are active in our catalog, and you'll get access to the lectures for that course. So it's an excellent value, and that you get that again as a gift for a $250 gift. That's $20 a month, roundabout. Now we come to one of the brand new ones. Starting this year, of course, we're doing Mootcast, which is the remote broadcast option for all of our regional moots, as well as for MythMoot. We started that with MythMoot 2 years ago, and of course this year we did MythMoot entirely online. But so if you make a $500 donation, so that's $42 a month is what that comes out to, you get what I'm calling Moot Pass. Moot Pass means you get VIP Mootcast access to 3 regional moots of your choice between now and August of 2021. So you can pick any 3 of the regional moots that we're doing, and you get full access to those built in there. Okay, very good. And okay, excellent. Sorry, let me shift things around here. Okay. If you donate $1,000 or more for the year, so that's, it's about $100 a month or so, then you get what I like to call the Ultimate Pass, right? You get VIP access to Mootcast for MythMoot and for all of the regional events for the whole year. So we have everything. You'll be able to attend all of the moots that we do, the virtual attendance at all the moots that we do year round rather. And then, so that's for people who donate $1,000 or more for the year. If you donate $2,500 or more for the year, then you get VIP admission to MythMoot. This is we're hoping and planning that we'll have in-person MythMoot again. And this is full admission to the full, VIP admission to the in-person MythMoot itself. For those who donate $5,000 or more, I will do, with the introductory tiers, you get to vote on what books we do next. you can name one. If you donate $5,000 or more, I will do a Mythgard seminar on the book, film, or TV series of your choice. So you can just name it entirely yourself, and I will teach a class at your command there. That's for $5,000 or more. For $10,000 or more, you'll get lifetime access to the lecture archives of the full Signum catalog. You can get full access to all of the courses that we've ever done or will do, right? You just get lifetime access to all of our courses. And for $25,000, for those who donate $25,000 or more, we will dedicate a course in Signum's MA program to you or someone you designate, with an acknowledgement plaque on the course page and at the start of every lecture recording, to be able to commemorate one of our courses in perpetuity, in the memory of somebody, or to, we'd love to express our gratitude towards you for the generosity of your gift in dedicating one of our courses to you that'll live forever on our webpage and in the lecture archives for that class. So that's for our thank you for those who give $25,000 for the year or more. So yeah, Dime, it's kind of like naming a building after you. This is the Signum version of naming a building, and I gotta tell you, you can donate $25,000 to another institution and they'll give you like a bench or something like that, right? You can get like a plaque on a bench on campus somewhere, right? But like, come on, who notices that, right? How many people read the little plaques on you go around college campuses, everywhere you go, there's little commemorative plaques on almost everything, right? And after a while, nobody reads those things. Besides which, only the people who ever physically go to the campus even ever have the opportunity to see it. And it's if they happen to go to the place where your bench is, right? But whereas with the Signum naming program here, right? If you make a $25,000 gift, and this is out there, right, for everyone to see forever. This will be on our website attached to this. We'll put our commemorative plaque not on a random bench out in the far corner of our campus. We will put it right there on our website in conjunction with that course in our course archives for in perpetuity. Because we would love for our students, for our future students, to know, the generosity of those who have made their education possible as we move forward. So anyway, yeah, no, I read the plaques too. I'm not saying everybody ignores the plaques, though I am saying if you're on campus for a long period of time, it's really easy to stop reading them, right? Just like Tolkien talked about it on fairy stories, right? You see something once and you think that's cool, but then you stop looking at it. Anyway, so if you go to signumuniversity.org/fund, so again, if we, let's see, going back up here, if you go to the support menu here and go to donate now, or click on any of our tabs here, this will get you to our donation page with the donation form on it. So there you go. Here's our donation page. You scroll down to the donation form and you can make the donation right there. So awesome. That's a pretty special perk right there. So Fire Swans is asking, how much do we have to donate to get Corey to dress up as the minstrel from the Rankin Bass Hobbit cartoon and sing The Greatest Adventure? I'll have to think about that. I'm not saying I can't be bought. I'm not proud. I'm not proud. I'm here to raise money for Signum University, so I do have a price, but I haven't thought about that in particular. I'd have to send me an email and we can negotiate that one. Exactly, Christopher. I'm not proud, but neither am I cheap. That's exactly it. That one would be pricey, but it's It could happen. It could happen. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. Really exciting news, and just to share with you what's happening in this wonderful moment. I'm going to be coming back with announcements and with updates and things, and my 10 problems in higher education throughout all of my broadcasts over the course of these next 4 weeks during the campaign. Check out the signumuniversity.org/fund page in order to see the full list of broadcasts and stuff. And I look forward to hearing from you guys. Thank you for those of you who have already given and who already have monthly donations set up. Thank you for those of you who have given already during this broadcast, or who are planning to give during the campaign, or planning to increase your monthly donation during this campaign. Thank you so much for that. Thank you in advance for all of the support that you've given. This has been an amazing adventure, and I am really excited to be continuing it with you guys. So thank you, everybody, and I will see you guys around soon. Stay tuned for more exciting stuff from Signum in the weeks to come. Thanks, everybody. Good night now.